Y'all tell me when you're ready. 1, 2. Good? Great. Well, thank everybody for coming. We finally made it through another winter. Flowers are blooming, yards are being mowed, everything is bright and green, and this entire state is sneezing. Here in the Bluegrass State, that can only mean one thing, that the Kentucky Derby is right around the corner. The next 2 weeks will bring so much of what is great about Louisville to the world stage. Fantastic food, southern hospitality, beautiful horses, and lots of celebrations, one after another. Churchill Downs and the city of Louisville always give 110% for guests from across the globe to come in and participate in the fastest 2 minutes in sports. And what an event that it is. We have now seen 2 Triple Crown winners just in the recent past, and we will have more people here and more people watching than ever before. But, as with any major tourism event, some people will not be here to celebrate. They are here because they do not have a choice. The grim fact is that large sporting events like the Derby draw not only racing enthusiasts and revelers, but also individuals who have enslaved children and adults and exploit them for sex and labor. Victims of human trafficking are coerced into submission by their abuser through immoral means, including forced dependence on drugs, violence, threats, and manipulation. Victims are also often the most marginalized in our society, victims of abuse and violence, runaways, refugees, and immigrants. They are the lost, the lonely, and the left behind. But that's exactly who my faith tells me that we are supposed to serve. They're the reason that I relentlessly pursue justice. My office has become a go-to state agency for human trafficking and law enforcement and prosecution across this Commonwealth. We, along with our partner with Catholic Charities, received the first grant to go to a state agency to fight human trafficking. Through that, we provided training to more than 9,000 people across Kentucky in 2018. That is 9,000 people that can now recognize trafficking and report, that can make that call that may lead to the next save of a child that has been harmed, but that we can get back on the path towards healing. And this training is important to me because the first human trafficking victim we saved during my term as Attorney General was the Wednesday before Derby in 2016. It was a hotel clerk that saw something that was wrong, that picked up the phone, and because of that, we, along with LMPD and others, were able to rescue a 16-year-old girl who had been trafficked for multiple years. Now, she is always going to carry the scars of what has happened with her, but because of that call, we were able to start getting her the help that she needed. And I'm proud to tell you that today we're doing better in the fight in human trafficking than ever before. Last year, we secured a record 39 human trafficking and other related offense arrests. One case resulted in a 20-year conviction of former Northern Kentucky School Board member and judge Timothy Nolan. In that case, there were 19 victims who we were able to get justice for. Those are 19 victims of one trafficker in one case. But it was the longest sentence for human trafficking under state charges in our history. It means at least in one case that tide is starting to turn. In another case, we assisted with the arrest of 2 Louisville men and 1 Louisville woman on human trafficking charges involving 2 16-year-old girls. And we worked with LMPD on what is now the most successful human trafficking sting in our state's history during the Farm Machinery Show last year. 17 individuals were arrested over 2 nights, each one thinking they were going to show up at a hotel and forever harm a young Kentuckian. We could not do this work without the help of local law enforcement, of our prosecutors, and also of survivor support organizations. And that's why we're here in this space today. It's because the most important person in any crime isn't the perpetrator, that we must catch them, we must bring them to justice, and we must stop them from harming other people. The most important person involved in any crime is that victim, is that survivor. And we are finally in a place where this Commonwealth is centered and focused on making sure the moment that rescue is made, the moment someone's identified as a human trafficking victim, that they start getting the services, the help, and the healing that they need. That is our obligation, because when society has failed someone, it's our job to help pick them up and put them on that path towards healing and prosperity. So we stand here together today because we need your help, Louisville. We need the help of each and every person in this city to make sure that the sporting event that we call our own and that we're proud of is not tainted. That people cannot use the Kentucky Derby, which is a time that we should be excited about and promoting the best of our state, to harm the least among us. That we have to stand up and say we will not let traffickers harm any child, whether they are from Kentucky or not, during this period of celebration. During this busy week, LMPD and other law enforcement have their hands full. More people in this city means more coverage needed by officers. But they and we need you. We need all Louisvillians and all Kentuckians to stand against human trafficking. This is our community, and this is our derby. We should not and will not let criminals ruin it. So be our eyes, be our ears, be on the lookout to make sure that this is not happening. Keep in mind that there is no single indicator for trafficking, but usually a combination of markers, identical tattoos or branding. People who appear malnourished or have physical injuries. Folks who are avoiding eye contact and seem to adhere to limited, scripted, or rehearsed responses in social interactions. Lack of official identification, documents, or personal possession, or sadly being unable to even identify what town or state they're in or where they're staying. Kentucky law requires everyone who has suspicion of children being involved in trafficking to call the Kentucky Child Abuse Hotline 1-877-KY-SAFE-1 or 1-877-597-2331, or report that information to local law enforcement. Remember, when we believe that children are being trafficked, we don't just have a moral duty to make that call, we each have a legal duty or obligation. Other concerns about possible human trafficking activities should go to the National Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-888-373-7888. These victims need your help. They are counting on you. Let's be our brother and our sister's keeper. Let's stand against human trafficking. Let's say no more. Let's tell these criminals, not in our town, not in our state, and not during our derby. I'd now like to introduce Jefferson County Attorney Mike O'Connell. Mike has devoted considerable resources to combating domestic violence, sexual assault, and human trafficking by operating a 7-day-a-week domestic violence intake center. Because of these and other efforts, Mike was awarded the 2017 Center for Women and Families Community Service Award and the 2017 Outstanding County Attorney of the Year. Mike?
Thank you, General.
Thank you.
Thank you, General Beshear, for hosting this event regarding a very important topic that many people in this community still don't know about and need to be educated on a daily basis. As Attorney General Beshear said, the Derby should be an opportunity to celebrate our great city of Louisville, not a time of increased business for the crime that is human trafficking. We know sexual exploitation soars when major conventions and sporting events come to town. And we must be honest about this fact and use it as a change to encourage our community to, as he said, report these crimes to better protect victims. We need the community's help to report these crimes. Prosecutors in my office see this issue throughout the year, but they are especially vigilant during these times, both in advocating for high bonds and dangerous out-of-town traffickers who are flight risk, and in identifying possible victims, connecting them to treatment. Better identification of possible victims is one area that my office and law enforcement partners have increasingly focused. Prosecutors are looking for warning signs to become aware of human trafficking at the beginning of any case. Our domestic violence intake center is available to victims 7 days a week at the Hall of Justice downtown at the corner of 6th and Jefferson Streets. Nearly 40 members of my staff work solely on issues related to domestic violence or sexual assault every single day. Jefferson County should know that we devote considerable resources and attention to this important issue. Often it is the insight of police officers that help us identify possible trafficking cases, as victims are usually hesitant to report out of fear of their trafficker or the belief that they must continue the behavior to protect family members. I want to thank the members of LMPD and other law officers who are here with us today. And I'd like to conclude by thanking again our Attorney General Andy Beshear for his commitment on this issue. Andy Beshear truly is our partner in stopping human trafficking here in Louisville and throughout the state. Thank you very much.
Also want to make sure I recognize Christy Gray from Commonwealth Attorney Tom Wine's office. His commitment to prosecuting these cases is shown by 3 of the 7 indictments thus far coming out of the rape kit backlog, and we're very proud of that work and appreciate the partnership. Next, I'd like to introduce another partner that we've had these last 3.5 years in fighting human trafficking, a true warrior that has been here every step of the way with all of us. That's Dr. Jennifer Middleton. Dr. Middleton heads up the U of L Kent School of Social Work and their Human Trafficking Research Initiative. Her research is helping to inform law enforcement, prosecutors, and advocates to recognize and rescue human trafficking victims. She joins us today to talk about a new research effort that can help us identify and save victims of human trafficking. Jennifer?
Project Pivot, which stands for Prevention and Intervention for Victims of Trafficking, is focused on child trafficking in the state of Kentucky. It's a new research study that aims to increase awareness about child trafficking in our state and our community, and to improve the ability of systems to effectively respond to child trafficking victims in a manner which limits trauma or additional trauma to those victims. Project Pivot is funded by a $100,000 grant offered through the Kentucky Children's Justice Act Task Force, and we're responding to 3 questions as part of our research efforts. The first is, what happens to child trafficking cases in the child welfare system? So as part of answering that question, our research team is currently reviewing 698 cases of reported child trafficking in the state of Kentucky. As part of our review efforts, we're looking at a lot of different variables around risk factors as well as how our system is responding. The second question that we are responding to is, what is the best approach for screening and identifying potential victims of trafficking? And again, specifically focusing on children in our communities. The third question we are responding to is, what is the best way to respond to child trafficking victims in a manner that limits additional trauma to those children? The Pivot team has already begun analyzing these cases with our partners from the Department of Community-Based Services and with assistance and a lot of support from the Attorney General's Office and the Statewide Human Trafficking Task Force. And through our efforts, we've developed an advisory consortium, so we're all working together on these issues. So far, we found that among the 698 reported cases of child trafficking, 83% of those victims were identified as female. The ages of the alleged victims ranged from 2 weeks old to 17 years old. And the most commonly reported age was 16. Over 97% of the alleged victims were American-born. 89% had prior involvement with DCBS, and over 93% were victims of child trafficking only as opposed to child and labor trafficking or labor trafficking only. Alarmingly, the majority of the alleged child victims were reportedly trafficked by a family member often a biological parent. Previous research has found that homelessness, being young, and experiencing adversity at an early age put children at risk for being trafficked in our community. The research being conducted by Project Pivot regarding child trafficking victims further supports these findings, but also serves as a call to action to our community and our state. The statistics are alarming, particularly regarding the frequency of involvement of family members in these cases. However, despite the weight of these statistics, there is hope. By ramping up community education and awareness efforts and educating the community about the warning signs of human trafficking and what to look for, we together, community members, parents, educators, and first responders, can help prevent child trafficking. Together, we can create a compassionate and safe community free from human trafficking. But education and building awareness in our community are key and will make us all warriors in the fight for human trafficking. Thank you.
And I want to make sure that we thank all of our hardworking social workers, especially at DCBS. You all go into dangerous situations. You leave your family to protect the neglected. We so appreciate the work that you all do each and every day, and without it, so many people would go unheard and unhelped. I just want to take a moment for us to all let some of that initial research sink in. I mean, a 2-month-old being trafficked. And you wonder why the folks up here fight as hard as they do. Think about that child who's not only been trafficked, but been trafficked by a biological parent. Not just the harm of the abuse that has happened, but the betrayal at such a level. I mean, these are not only crimes, but trauma that we absolutely must respond to. And I tell you what, the next speaker has been doing just that. Amy Leenertz runs Free to Hope. One of the first people that I had the opportunity to meet in this fight. And Amy was fighting it on all levels, and probably at some point felt like she was fighting it alone at different times. She was a member of our first Survivors Council and a leader in that group. But I'll tell you, I've never been prouder that when the eclipse was happening, and especially in Western Kentucky, we were going to have people flocking to Kentucky to watch the eclipse. I went down for a number of different things, and I tell you, every storefront I walked into had a Free to Hope sticker, had the information on the counter because Amy had been there talking to every single person, going to store, community to community, putting her life and her family on hold to serve those who might be harmed. I don't know if anybody works harder to stop human trafficking than Amy Leenertz. Amy?
So in this last 6 months, Free to Hope has started working with the search and rescue company as well. We have merged some services together, and we started a new program. Every year before Derby, we do an outreach program of some kind, and what he was talking about was a business program where we put things in businesses so that people could find the hotline number and would know what trafficking is. This year, we're doing a little different. This year, we're focusing on missing kids in Kentucky. Okay, and with all the information, we need to get the kids some help. Now, this has tips for hotline information. It has tips of red flags for trafficking information, places to call, LMPD, KSP, all these different kind of services that will help a kid. What we want you to do, though, if you will, please, is go on to www.freetohope.org and download these and put them everywhere you go to. It's so simple, but something as simple as this can actually help save a kid this year. Because these children are going to be brought into town, and it's going to happen. So the more we get people recognizing it, maybe the more somebody sees somebody's face, we have a better chance of getting these kids back. And that's what it's all about. So I hope you'll do that. And I just wish you a great Derby season, and I hope we can all be out there and be for these kids, trying to get them back to where they need to be and stop trafficking altogether. Thank you.
I'm going to go one speaker off script, and that's because Summer's here with us today. Summer runs one of the programs to help human trafficking victims. Summer is a survivor, which she'll tell you about, and Summer is on our current Survivors Council. And when someone like Amy or Summer have stepped up to do this work, it's truly turning tragedy into triumph. It's taking what is probably the most difficult pain and being willing to face it so that others don't have to go through it. And I got to tell you, I get an opportunity to work with them so often, but it's courageous and amazing every single day that we get the opportunity to do it. So, Summer?
Hello, my name is Summer Dickerson. I am the founder and executive director of a ministry called Women of the Well. And, you know, I thank God that I have so many amazing people that are doing amazing things, especially when it comes around Derby time. I can tell you, it was funny, someone just said to me, well, you know, because I'm going to be doing some stuff or whatever, and they was like, I hope you don't have any plans on Derby or Oaks. And I said, well, you know, 4 years ago I was being sold on Derby and Oaks, and now 4 years later, I'm a part of the solution. And I'm very honored that I get to do this, because not all of us make it out of everything or make it out of the trauma to be able to do this. And so, like I said, I do know that trafficking happens right here in our city during Derby. I was bought and sold for a couple years. Even when I lived out of state, I was flown in to do calls on Derby. So don't think that it's not happening. And I was when I was being sold out of Chicago to come down here, actually sat on the Millionaires Row, right where everybody was, right there in front of everybody, and no one even realized that I was a victim of human trafficking. So please be aware that it's happening everywhere, and I'm just glad that finally our city is standing up and saying this is not going to happen in our city. So thank you.
And as an example about how every single day we can do better, I know that Amy helped Summer, and now Summer is out there helping people. And the people that Summer have helped are going to help other people. I mean, this is our opportunity, whether it's our partnerships with TARC or the hotel industry or the trucking industry, whether it's getting the word out through our media partners. Every single day is an opportunity to end human trafficking in Louisville. And think about that. I'd love to be the first city in the country, the first state in the country that makes that happen. And I tell you, I believe we're on the way. We got a lot of work to do, but every single year it seems like this group grows a little bit larger. So we're going to close with Donna Pollard. And I don't want to tell you Donna's story because I think Donna's going to, but Donna's an amazing person. I think she shows you the strength of the human spirit and how much that we can take, yet still be able to triumph in such an amazing and incredible way. Donna's been a great friend to me in times where I've needed one. And Donna, just to be a small part of the journey that you're on, I will always remember as being, you know, one of the highlights of not my career, I think my life. So, Donna Pollard.
I don't know how I can follow after that and not be teary-eyed. Thank you so much, General Beshear. My name is Donna Pollard, and I am the founder and president of Survivors Corner, and I would like to start off by welcoming you to our office space. Thank you all so much for being here with us today, and this beautiful space that we use as a resource to help empower survivors towards a deeper sense of healing from the trauma that they have endured. Today is a very special, powerful day for me. April 22nd of 2000, I was 16 years old, and on this day 19 years ago, I was taken to a county court clerk's office and married off to a man who was nearly 31, who exploited me. I had to make the decision that I was not going to live as a victim my entire life, but I was going to find a way to find my strength and resilience and overcome the trauma that I had been through so that I could repurpose that trauma into into purpose that was going to achieve protection for others. And today I stand before you surrounded by powerful advocates and allies and survivors. And our Attorney General Andy Beshear has demonstrated his commitment to this fight. As a society, we cannot possibly address situations such as drug addiction and poverty, domestic violence, and sexual assault if we are not focused on putting an end to human trafficking, and if we are not letting our awareness be on hyperspeed during the events that perpetuate those cycles. So I thank you as community members for you showing up today to demonstrate that you are also committed to casting that ripple out into our community that brings more protection and healing. Thank you.
And as you know, we're here today in a space that Donna helped create for trafficking and other victims. At a time, I know that she didn't feel like there was a place, that now there is a physical location where people can come and maybe lean on others who've been through some of the same. I want to close just by giving you one example of how things can change in a year. One example of how we can do just a little bit more every year, and that's Cece, who's here from TARC. This is going to be the first year that because of that partnership, because of a commitment by TARC, of the type of community members that they already are, but we're willing to recommit to, that the AG's office has now trained every single driver, every single dispatcher, every single person up and down the chain. So just think about it. Every single person who gets on a TARC bus during this Derby season, there's going to be someone on there trained to identify and report trafficking. Think what an amazing tool that is, given their willingness to stand up and do the right thing, to say no more to this, about how many more eyes and ears are out there this Derby season. But to do this right requires the entire general public to be aware and to be ready. It requires everybody else from Louisville or from Kentucky or our southern Indiana region that are on that bus to be looking around too. If you see something, make a call. There's no punishment, there's no penalty for making a call that turns out not to be trafficking, and that's what everybody hopes when they respond to the call. But you never know when you're that hotel clerk, Wednesday before Derby in 2016, that makes a call, and because of that, a 16-year-old is pulled out of terrible abuse and has a real shot at life. So thank you all for coming, and we're happy to take questions if you have them. Just let us know who the question is for, and we'll let them stand up to the podium. No? All right, thank you all very much.